And welcome to Perilous World Radio, David Masters. I'm going to talk about a number of things today related to the ego. The ego. Big, bad, beautiful ego. Because, see, there are two kinds of ego. And this is what most people don't really understand about the ego. You can't exist without an ego. What? What is he saying? Well, it's true. You have to have an ego because the ego is a part of who you are. But you see, the idea here is that you either have a humble ego or you have a very prideful ego. And remember the old saying, pride goeth before the fall. Does humility go before the fall? No. Humility is what keeps you from going toward the fall. Humility and submission and obedience to something greater than yourself. Now, but if you're having challenges with that, step back for a minute and realize you can't get rid of the ego. You just have to tame it. Tame the ego. And without that, you're going to go on being influenced by many things in this world. And those things are going to lead you most likely down the wrong path. And you're going to think that it's your own idea as you go down that path. Because when you choose humility, your life is different. The struggles are different in humility. The struggles are about perception and the choices that you make and why you make them and why you don't. In humility, in obedience, in submission, in surrender to something greater than yourself. And this is really where life starts to get different for everybody who starts to walk down that path. And usually it has to do with reaching a level of suffering that you can't take anymore. The suffering of the self based on following the prideful side of the ego. Prideful, dark path. And it is a dark path because pride always leads you away from the light. And so, whenever you see these people doing a pride parade, what kind of pride is that? Pride in the dark side. And pride from the dark side. And so, if you look at your life and you want to really understand why it hasn't worked out the way you thought it would, I think you have to first come to the understanding that much of what you believed wasn't true to begin with, and it wasn't your idea at all. And remember that when you're growing up and when you're young, you're very impressionable. I mean, this is how we learn the language and the culture and every other thing about the way that we live. But we also have an innate side of us, and it comes from the fact that, as you come into this world, you are innocent. You have no idea, what or why. And you're beginning to learn all of the things of the environment. And you absorb a great many things. And at some point, there has to be what I call a conscious process of elimination. So you begin to see things about life, and you begin to see your relationship with some of these things that are troubling you. And then the wondering, they call it the wonder years, you start to wonder about these things, and you seek to understand. So unless you seek to understand, you're never going to have a grasp on the reason why you're here. I know that I started when I was 13 years old. I wondered, what is my purpose on earth? What am I going to do? Who am I going to be? Why was I born into this family? I mean, isn't that a natural thing that young people want to understand and know the whys and the wherefores of? Of course it is. And that is what begins to make the distinctions, that that state of mind of wondering, needing to know. And it's interesting that everything in life is literally on a need to know basis, because before you need to know it, doesn't make any sense. Who cares about it? And so when I remember there were times where people were trying to tell me things, my dad or whoever, people were trying to tell me things, and I thought, what do I need to know this for? I remember when I was in school, it's like, why do I need to know all this stuff? Right? But there comes a time where you say, oh, well, what about this? And what about that? And you get curious, because at that point there is a need to know. And then when you have a need to know, things become more interesting. Naturally, things naturally become more interesting. So this is what we're talking about, the ego. And I've played this audio before from one of my favorite movies called Revolver. But I think that this really makes a great point. But first, I've got some audio from a hypnotist. Now, this is an Australian hypnotist named Dan Jones. And the story is really interesting because he started to work with a group of people. Now, remember, my dad came from a background of thinking that he could help people with hypnotism because he wanted to help people, and he couldn't become a doctor at the time. He wanted to be a doctor when he was young. And so he started to get interested in hypnotism because there were stage hypnotists where he grew up in Brighton, England. And he watched the hypnotists, and they did some very, very interesting and strange things to people. And so as he, developed his life, and as the years went by, he was always curious about hypnotism. And one of the things that my dad discovered was that people are already in a semi-hypnotic state, which means that we are all subject to the strongest influence, something that you may not realize. But we come into this world subject to influence, and as our brain develops and we become more tuned in, we're also, though, more susceptible to ideas, and we have to allow or agree to those ideas before they can actually start to influence and direct us. And so this hypnotist, Dan Jones, he's starting to work with this group of people that were into the occult. And I have a minute to play this. You're not going to believe what you're about to hear.
Just saying no doesn't mean that people don't have that experience. So I was teaching a course, unknown to me. Some of the people on the course were deeply into spiritualism and into doing seances and trying to contact the dead and all these sort of things. What happened was I was teaching the course, but there was an uneven number. So I ended up paired up with one of these people. This was their first time ever being hypnotized. And so I hypnotized them. As I was hypnotizing them, they suddenly freaked out and jumped up and started screaming. What happened? I don't normally hypnotize people and have them jump up screaming and panicking. The person said, well, as soon as I went into hypnosis, as soon as I went into a trance, I realized I'd entered a state of opening myself up and making myself receptive to the spirit world. I suddenly saw all of the spirits that are in this room now that were waiting for a vessel to open up so that they could come and communicate with people by channeling through that vessel.
Wow. Scary. But it's, oh man, this is one of those things I have to get into a discussion about, because what happened was that the awareness was brought down to a different frequency, a different level, and they started to see what they hadn't seen before. They were all about it, but then as their conscious level went down, they became more connected on that lower level of consciousness. Now, going to play another clip when we come back. FHU.com, find out more. I'll be right back. In 3, 2. All right, welcome back. Talking about the ego and introducing this idea of the fact that we are all in a semi-hypnotic state already. People don't know it. This is why people are easily influenced by young people, especially. And now that they have their smartphones open all day and all night, those influences are just flooding in. There's no sluice gate. There's no way to slow it down. The brain just keeps gobbling, absorbing information. And yeah, you don't know until you know. And when you begin to become aware, that's when the dynamic changes. Now you either begin to be able to push it off, and then you want to wake up and begin to be free of those influences, which you are not even aware of until you are, or you go even more deeply into it. So I'm going to play this clip again because I have a sequence of clips here that he explains. So let me play this first clip again.
Just saying no doesn't mean that people don't have that experience. So I was teaching a course, unknown to me. Some of the people on the course were deeply into spiritualism and into doing seances and trying to contact the dead and all these sort of things. What happened was I was teaching the course, but there was an uneven number. So I ended up paired up with one of these people. This was their first time ever being hypnotized. And so I hypnotized them. As I was hypnotizing them, they suddenly freaked out and jumped up and started screaming. What happened? I don't normally hypnotize people and have them jump up screaming and panicking. The person said, well, as soon as I went into hypnosis, as soon as I went into a trance, I realized I'd entered a state of opening myself up and making myself receptive to the spirit world. I suddenly saw all of the spirits that are in this room now that were waiting for a vessel to open up so that they could come and communicate with people by channeling through that vessel.
Man, I'll tell you, that is scary, but this is really interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anybody who is using hypnosis discuss this or explain this. But the person he is describing said that these spirits were waiting for a vessel to open up. What are we if we are not vessels, right? Either for one or the other, for good or for the dark side. It is undeniably true that we are vessels because, when a person goes into, let's say, a coma, where is the self? Where is the person? Where are they? They are not present, or they are contained in some other space that is not able to interact with the outside world. But the self, it is a receiver and a transmitter. So, and again, look at what is being said here. The person describes the spirits that were present waiting for a vessel to open up to be communicated with. I mean, hello. Now, scientists are beginning to accept and discuss this idea that consciousness is non-local. Non-local means that we are between two frequencies, one above, one from below. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. And, when you have a radio and you're tuning for a channel or a station or a frequency, it's the same thing. I mean, it depends upon what you are tuning into. Now, and if you're not aware, or let's just say there are a lot of things that you can see on your Instagram feed, all kinds of weird stuff. I don't have one, but I know most people do, or TikTok or whatever it is. And there's some very dark stuff. So when you land on that, as you're flipping through your smartphone device, you land on that. If you start watching it, it starts to have an effect on you. And this is, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You don't have problems. Problems have you. Now, objectively speaking, it's easier if you want to change the course of your life. It's easier to look at it that way than to believe that you have the problem. It would be like saying it's part of you. The problem and whatever is associated with the problem is not a part of you. It is coming from somewhere and you are facilitating it. So if you look at it objectively that way, you can see that by simply changing the frequency, and this is why when I talk about be still and know, it is a change of frequency, right? The active mind is constantly looking for something to tune into, some kind of content, some kind of substance, the active mind, and the ego attached to it because the ego wants to be entertained. I mean, objectively speaking, what is the thing that you enjoy being entertained by? Is it music? Is it, it could be any number of things, dancing, porn. It doesn't make any difference in the sense, although some things are darker than others, some things are more forbidden than others, and the ego tends to gravitate toward what? Well, the more forbidden things. And so the sense of becoming aware of these things provides you with an opportunity to make a different choice. This is the takeaway. That the minute you start to awaken, to know the truth begins to set you free. And actually the truth, well, let's just say a little bit of light comes in and shines on this, whatever it is that's entertaining you, shines on the ego. And then you have a choice to step away from the ego and the things that entertain it and the things that tantalize you through it. And those things have a tendency to be hypnotic. And so the reason I'm combining these two ideas, which most times people don't do, is because it's more understandable. The ego and hypnosis are like two horns on a goat, right? They're part and parcel of each other. And I got more clips of this hypnotist, Dan Jones. I found this several years ago, but it's very instructive. He says some very interesting things. And are you ready to have the awakening? Maybe you are. So we'll continue this on the other side. FHU.com is where you find out more about the Be Still and Know. All right, in 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back. I'm talking about the ego and hypnotism, and whether you realize or not that you are already in a semi-hypnotic state, maybe fully hypnotic. Maybe. Let me ask you this. When people criticize you, how does that affect you? It hurts, and your feelings get hurt, and your mind starts to race and try to figure out how to deal with what's just been said about you. Now, the flip side of that is when you get praise and people say, oh, how nice you look, and oh, this is my best friend, this person is so wonderful. Are you elevated? But you may not realize that this is a hypnotic trigger. So criticism and cruelty, as opposed to praise and compliments, these things are hypnotic triggers that throw you into a state of ego disturbance or ego satisfaction? Who doesn't want to feel like they are at the top of their game and look good? And doesn't that make you feel good? The flip side of that is, does anybody like being criticized for any reason? And even if it's constructive and not destructive criticism, even, you know, so I will tell you that one of the turning points in my own life was that I was kind of an aspiring graphic designer, and we hired a woman who had gone to art school, Pasadena College of Art and Design, prestigious art school. I'd never gotten any training, and so when this person came in, I started to show my artistic creations, and the person just ripped it up and picked it apart. But what I did was, since I didn't know that there were all these little rules and regulations about art and design, I just paid attention. I listened and I said, "Oh, I didn't know that." In other words, I wasn't defensive because I wasn't necessarily proud of what I was doing. I was actually like, I wonder how this person will see this. And so I actually learned. It's almost like I went to college when this person, even though they were hypercritical and almost mean about it, I didn't take it that way. I took it like, here's my opportunity to see things I never would have seen. So at that point, it was because, and I talked about a need to know. I wanted to know. I needed to know why things were good and why they weren't, so that I could continue doing better work. But you see, if the person would have said, "Oh, that's nice," but really thought it was terrible, would they have been doing me a service or a disservice? You know what I'm saying? So if somebody, there's moments where people can criticize you that are true, and there are moments where they can be horribly critical and where that are not true. You need to know the difference. When you know the difference, then you can take from it what you actually need. Think about what I'm saying. And if you are open and willing to hear whatever it is that's true, whether it's good or bad, see if you do look good one day, and you've put on the right combination of things, which is harder for men than women. You can be humble about it. Oh, well, thank you. Or, if somebody says, "Oh, that shirt and that combination of shirt and sweater look terrible," you can be humble about it. It works both ways. Anyway, I want to continue with Dan Jones, talking about what happened when he was hypnotizing these people in this group who are working in what I call the occult, seances and things of that nature. Here comes that clip.
And so this person genuinely believed that is what was happening to them. That once I'd hypnotized them, because I'd hypnotized them and they'd entered a trance, they had opened themselves up to the spirit realm and to being a vessel that could be entered. And they suddenly saw an entire sort of room full of spirits, all just waiting to enter this person and communicate through them. If it's true that hypnosis opens you up to demons or spirits or whatever entering you, then if you watch a rom-com where you become deeply absorbed in the romantic comedy, and so much so that when something happens on the film that's supposed to be funny, you start uncontrollably laughing. Or when something on the film happens that's supposed to be sad and moving, you start uncontrollably crying. You are hypnotized. That is what hypnosis is to the film. So the film gives suggestions and you respond to those suggestions.
Yeah, but again, this person probably doesn't even know why hypnosis actually has the effect that it does. Because a person is either predisposed toward hypnosis or they're predisposed toward an awakening of some sort. Now, the awakening would be that rather than give permission, right, because the hypnosis needs permission. the hypnotist has to have an agreement with the participant, and that's how it starts. You surrender your own free will to the suggestions of other people. So if he's describing a movie, but what happens is we have a tendency to get caught up in our head with things, circumstances, visuals, music, and there's a reason for that, because reality is a very stark place to be. And so there's a conflict with the ego side of us and reality. When a child plays with a Barbie or a toy car or a toy soldier, something in the mind makes it to a degree real. So in other words, the energy of the mind goes to filling in blanks and replacing fantasy or pretend with an added element of believing it to be real. I remember hearing about people in Egypt thousands of years ago, and the Egyptians built these statues and these, I guess it's statues. They're the things that people would worship, and they actually literally made them so that they could articulate, so that the jaw would move, or a hand would move, or maybe smoke would come out of the mouth of one of these things. And that added to the believability of the thing, so that people would believe that there was really an entity inside of the statue. See? So when we have that relationship with something that is not real, but we suspend our disbelief and we believe more completely into it, to us it becomes real. See, the reality of people, whether it's real or not, it depends upon how you look at it. Because you are the key to the actuation of its influence. It doesn't necessarily, in and of itself, doesn't have any influence over you until you allow that to have that effect. So if you walk into a dark hallway, say you come home and the house is dark, and you walk in the dark hallway, and then you kind of, the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you feel like somebody's following you. That's your own mind. Now, it could be that there's some force, some dark force there. Who knows? But at the same time, when you flip on the light and you see that there's nothing there, your mind settles back into whatever it is that's actually there. And so the actual as opposed to the virtual, the key to that is your brain, your mind, and whether or not you buy into it, and whether or not you allow yourself. Because sometimes people have terrible panic attacks, when they don't know, and they go to flip on the switch as if their life depends on it, right? But so maybe that's a survival instinct, maybe that's a fight or flight. But at the same time, you also have the power to know. You can actually know when you get up in a dark room whether or not, and most of the time anyway, there could be a shadow in a room. But it's also, you can know the difference between whether or not it's real or whether you think it's real. You can know the difference. And then you can have the third state, which is that you know that you don't know. So then you flip on the light and you go, oh, okay. But you don't feed yourself to it. That's the whole thing in a nutshell, is that we feed ourselves through the ego, because the ego is vulnerable. And this is where we end up in a clash with reality, because the ego likes to believe its own reality. That's what the ego does. It's just like the child playing with the toy car or the Barbie. We want to believe the things that we want to believe. And That is it, our beginning of us playing in our own little way, playing God. That's what the ego sort of compels us to do, is to take something that's not real and make it real by the belief in it. This is how mass populations were controlled back in ancient Egypt. So, to be clear, understanding how the door opens, and I'm playing this audio from Dan Jones, the hypnotist, he doesn't understand it himself. He doesn't believe that there are these spiritual things, but even though these people are telling him that, when they lowered their frequency through allowing themselves to be induced into a hypnotic state, which is simply giving over your free will to the influence of someone else, a suggestion, it changes your relationship with reality. Quick break. I'll be right back. In 3, 2, 1. All right, continuing with the conversation with the topic of hypnosis and ego. Here comes another clip.
For example, I know a lot of religious people are anti-hypnosis, but in part, there's two things I've been told, depending on the religious person that I've spoken to who's been against hypnosis. One is hypnosis opens you up to the devil and to demons and to spirits, and by opening you up and making it so that it allows these things into you, that means these things can then influence you, and so the devil can take you over and stuff like that. So that's one thing I've been told by people who are religious. Another thing I've been told by religious people is similar, but it's that it allows you to be controlled and allows the negative aspects of you to come out and almost take shape.
Yeah, well, and again, you're wise to be dubious of the dark arts, no matter what. But unfortunately, the average person does not understand that you are already subject to certain influences through hypnotic forces that exist, that actually exist already. You're predisposed, right? And if you begin to realize this, you begin to realize that, you ever ask yourself, why do I like, I remember when I was, younger, in my 20s, I started to wonder, why do I like certain kinds of music? Why do some songs have such a strong influence on my emotions more than others? And then one day it occurred to me, usually I would hear a song. It didn't make any difference if it was, because I used to like jazz, because I didn't like to have words interfering, with my mind. So I just wanted to hear the music, kind of background music. But I remember that I discovered that I had these emotional moments in my life, and then the music would come along, and somehow that would be soothing, or it would speak to that emotional condition. So again, was I just a sponge absorbing something, and then I had a better feeling as a result of that, and that stuck with me? I think that's true. I think that the things that we experience in a state of emotional vulnerability are the things that we retain more than the things that are passing. Otherwise, you would retain more than your capacity. So you're not emotional all the time, although some people are. But when you're in an emotional state, you're more vulnerable, and then you hear something or you see something, and then that gets more embedded more deeply. And so then you have a tendency then to integrate that into your memory. However, for example, of music, you'll think when you're in that same emotional condition again, oh, I want to hear that song. And then you hear that song, but it doesn't have the same effect. So after a while, the emotional effect of it wears off. Now that's because people are always subject to the strongest influence. I started out by saying that. But what is the strongest influence? That's the question. Now, so some people want a constant reinforcing influence, like people that watch religious preachers all day long on TV or on the radio. They want a constant reinforcement from the preacher because they think that helps them be closer to God. But that's that kind of person, and then the other person listens to music or radio or talk radio or something, has a hobby, and they're fixated on that hobby, and those things have a tendency to reinforce whatever state of mind that you're in, right? And so we live most of our life, in a subjective state, being subject to all these forces that pull us around like a dog on a leash. And we don't know it, and we think it's our own idea, and we think it's wonderful for the most part. The things that we don't like, we struggle against with alcohol, food, or drugs, or whatever. And the things that we think are great, we tend to surrender to and give ourselves to it altogether. But one way or another, we're really not living our own lives. We really aren't. We are living artificial lives based on a construct, like in the Matrix movie. It's a virtual reality. It's not an actual reality. And it's weird because when you start to face actual reality, things actually change significantly. And you find yourself kind of like something doesn't feel like remember, if you saw the movie The Matrix, there were a couple of scenes of the glitch in the Matrix where the guy sees the black cat walking, and then it resets and the black cat walks again across the same exact. That's because he was aware of the fact, he's becoming aware of the fact that he was in the Matrix. And there's times where you see glitches in reality. It's not necessarily a movie scene, but reality glitches, and then you wonder what the heck was that? Or you might have like a deja vu. And the deja vu is like, I think I've been here before. I think I've seen this. I think I've experienced this before. You know what I'm talking about. There is a glitch that happens when you start to become aware that the reality that you're fabricating in your own mind, that you're buying into in your own mind, is not necessarily the actual reality itself. So objectively, this is where we're going today with the ego, because the ego loves to create its own reality. But when you become obedient to something above yourself, that starts to fade. Quick break. FHU.com. I'll be right back. Three, two, one. All right. So I mentioned in the first hour, welcome back, by the way. I mentioned in the first hour the movie Revolver. And The Revolver is a very interesting movie for a lot of reasons, but it deals with the ego. It deals with the side of the ego that most people never really understand. So I've pulled a couple of clips from the movie. And in this story, Jason Statham, he's a sort of a criminal type. He ends up going to jail for some reason, and he has these jail mates, people who are in the prison cell with him. And what we discover in the movie is that it appears to me that these are angels trying to awaken him to his own ego and to his own fallen condition. So he gets out of jail, and these characters that were in the prison with him show up, and they're trying to explain things to him. And to him, they appear to be real. To us, they appear to be real. And the question is, are they real? Or are they just representations of a conscience, a higher self, trying to awaken him? So here comes a scene where they're talking to him about who is really in control on a rooftop. Here it comes.
What is the first rule of any game, Mr. Green?
The only way to get smarter is by playing a smarter opponent.
What's rule 2 of any game?
The more sophisticated the game, the more sophisticated the opponent.
Almost the same, but where does it stop, Mr. Green? Where does this game stop?
It stops when you start to give me answers. Don't let them play head games with you, Jake.
Is it me that's playing head games with you, Mr. Green? You've heard that voice for so long, you believe it to be you.
What you have to realize here is that there are two Jakes, right? The one who is talking to the people there with him on the roof, and the other one that's talking to Mr. Jake, which is his other voice. Don't let them play head games with you, Jake. That's his ego. I just want to make that point because you might get confused by this. These are two people that are trying to awaken him to the ego self, to the other side of him. Remember in The Lord of the Rings, where the Gollum starts talking to his alter ego. This is a very important distinction to be made, because the alter ego is the one who has the craving for the ring of power, right? And so when he starts to trust the Hobbit, he starts to not want to listen to the dark side. And the dark side says to him, "Where would you be without me? Where would we be?" Anyway, I'm going to continue playing this clip.
You believe it to be your best friend.
They should believe their opponent to be their best friend.
Where's the best place an opponent should hide?
The very last place you would ever look.
Do you know who Sam Gold is, Mr. Green? You should. Because he knows who you are.
The Gold. Sam Gold.
Mr. Clandestine. Mr. Ambiguous.
Mr. Mystery.
He's all up here. Pretending to be you.
No one sees gold, but gold sees everything.
You're in a game, Jake. You're in the game. Everyone's in his game, and nobody knows it. And all of this is his world. He owns it. He controls it.
I've had enough of this. It's starting to do my head in. We've had
He
enough.
tells you what to do
Look, that's enough.
and when to do it.
Tell him. I said that's enough, Avi! Eventually, when the opponent is challenged or questioned, it means the victim's investment and thus his intelligence is questioned. No one can accept that. Not even to themselves.
This is such a brilliant movie. It's really powerful. But you have to be able to pay attention. Your comprehension is going to be challenged because it really is about the duality of the self, the subconscious. And the angels are trying to point it out to him. This is his world, they say. He tells you what to say and you say it. Do you not ever hear in your own self that component speaking to you and then you repeat what it says? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're very unconscious of it. Most of us are. Most people are completely unaware that they have this alter ego, the other self. And most often, the other self, like Sam Gold, that's the other side of his ego, of Jake's ego, is always there. It's on the sidelines, constantly making commentary. You ever hear yourself making commentary? Oh, look at that one. Oh, that one's overweight. You ever hear yourself? Oh, what a wonderful person. But is that you? That's the question. And if you can hear it, when you can hear it, you ever wonder, where's that coming from? Because the commentary it's sort of automatic. I mean, I hear it in myself. And I go, oh, this is silly. I see it. It could be some stupid observation about something that is meaningless, but that's what that thing feeds off of. It feeds off of the meaningless and the mundane and judgment. It just feeds. That's its food. And you, whether you realize it or not, it's like it's a resident in your head, like Trump is in Rosie O'Donnell's head. Trump derangement syndrome is the idea that these people have given so much energy and hatred toward Trump that he lives rent-free in their head, and so when they hear his words and they react, they stick like glue. And they can't get it. And Rosie O'Donnell can't get him out of her head. Is there somebody in your life that's that way? Somebody that irritates you to no end? Or the other thing, the other side of it is the obsession with somebody that you, are somehow emotionally connected to in a way that you think of as positive. Oh, I just love being around that person. Oh, it's so wonderful. So there's a duality to it, because whatever this thing is, this ego, this subconscious self, it works both sides of the equation. The downside, which is resenting and judging and commenting about every little thing, and then the upside, which is the judge of, oh, that's a nice person. Oh, that's so good. Oh, this is so delicious. You can hear it. This is so good. Especially when it comes to food or pleasures of some kind. Oh, it's so wonderful. You hear it, and do you think it's you? You really think it's you? Yeah, it's just step back. Do you really need to have those comments going on at all times? No, you really don't. You don't need those comments. They don't really serve you, if you know what I mean. It serves itself. This subconscious alter ego, it feeds through you, right? Like a parasite. Like when you have a tapeworm. It's a spiritual tapeworm. It just feeds off of you. And it uses your eyes and your brain, your mouth and your body to absorb the nutrients from the environment. And that is how it works. It's absolutely how it works. And so if you become aware of it, the dynamic changes. That's exactly what happens. You become aware of it, just like in the audio clips that I'm playing for you. And then maybe you start to hear it react, and you see that it isn't actually you. That's the point. FHU.com. Check it out. Be still and know. I'll be right back. And welcome back. Talking about one of my favorite movies of all. This is kind of like the ego matrix. It's called Revolver. Guy Ritchie directed it. I think he wrote it. It's really an expose of ego. I played the first clip, and here comes clip number 2. They're on a roof. In my opinion, these are two angels that are talking to Jake. And Jake's ego is sitting there sort of like a football coach trying to tell him how to avoid seeing what these guys are telling him, these angels. Here it comes.
He's behind all the pain there ever was. Behind every crime ever committed.
How can I be behind behind all the pain, all the crime, if I don't even exist.
And right now, he's telling you that he doesn't even exist.
Now, isn't that incredible? Just to think about how they've been able to take and show this dynamic of the ego self talking to the self, and the angel being able to intuit and know exactly what's going on in the subconscious because they can see it, because it's a spiritual thing, telling him and narrating what it's going to say to the person that it inhabits. Isn't this amazing?
No one lives and displeases gold.
No one but your two friends.
We just put you to war with the only enemy that ever existed. And you think he's your best friend.
And they will protect their best friend. With everything they've got.
You're protecting him, Mr. Green. But with what? Where's the best place an opponent should hide? In the very last place you'd ever look. He's hiding behind your pain, Jake. You're protecting him with your pain. Embrace the pain, and you will win this game.
And I know, nothing hurts more than humiliation and a little money loss.
If you change the rules on what controls you,
You will change the rules on what you can control. How radical are you prepared to be, Mr. Green?
If you change the rules on what controls you, you change what you can control. Oh, so good. So good. Because it's true. It's an absolute undeniable truth. But and they're trying to point out, these two angels are trying to point out to Mr. Green, his name is Jake. And the subconscious, the alter ego is Mr. Gold. Well, what is the gold? I mean, everything. You know, if you look at it objectively, gold is the thing that is valuable, most valuable to the mind of a person who feels vulnerable or worthless. Mr. Gold has the gold. This is so good. You change the rules on what controls you. You change what you can control. That's just an undeniable truth of life. Now, you can do that the right way and the wrong way. Again, we go back to this idea. If you know the truth begins to set you free. In other words, the truth is a de-adhesive. It starts to loosen the grip of what it is that's the world that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. It starts to open up a door of truth, of light, of reality. And you have to, by the way, it takes time. You have to acclimate to living in the actual reality. Because you may have lived your whole life in a darkness, believing that darkness was the actual reality. So if you see the truth, that you're living in that reality, that starts to change it. You see that, you know, that a single match illuminates a lot of darkness. Right? Then there's nothing in darkness. It's empty. And with a single match, there's heat, and heat produces light. There's something there. So something versus nothing. You live in the darkness, you have nothing. You may have all of the things of this world, but you have nothing of the light. So you may have lived there and not even known it and chosen it without even knowing that you've chosen it. There was another good movie called The Lost Boys with Kiefer Sutherland years ago. The little family moves to a town full of vampires, and these vampires sort of rule the town. And one of a young man, he's probably in his, let's say, 20 years old. Got two little brothers. And so he starts to get involved with this group of young vampires who are riding motorcycles, and every night they're out partying and picking off victims. But those vampires want this young man to join them. They want him to be one of their gang. And so they begin the process of seducing him to do things that they are doing. You see it? This is how it works. They start to hold out that he can do the things that they're doing. So there's the temptation, right? The temptation is there. There's another great movie called The Lost Boys. And you don't realize you come into this world and you don't know how vulnerable that you are. You don't even realize the forces that are at work on you. Nobody actually realizes the forces that are at work. Unfortunately, but you through pain, and this is what is being said in this last clip, embrace the pain. If you run away from the pain, that's when it really has you, the dark side. It's really got you if you run away from the pain. And you hide the alter ego behind the pain. And that becomes your rationalization and justification for everything. You hide dark side behind the pain because everybody's got it. Pain from something, from betrayal, from cruelty, from failure. You've got pain. But if you embrace the pain and look at what the pain has to show you, that starts to change what you can control. If pain is controlling you, you'll never control what's behind the pain. FHU.com, find out about the Be Still and Know exercise. It is the de-adhesive. And welcome back. It is Perilous World Radio. David Masters here. I've got a couple more clips here of the movie Revolver. I hope this is helping you to understand what you may not have seen yet about this ego. The ego has two sides to it. It plays both sides, the positive and the negative. It plays with your mind through seduction and temptation and rejection and cruelty. It plays with you like a toy until you say no, until you say, nope, I'm not going to allow the ego to continue to do this. So in this story of Revolver, I think you can see it on YouTube. The Jake Green decides that he's going to confront some people that did him wrong. And the ego is constantly messing with his mind. The ego side. Messing with his mind terribly. So he's going up in an elevator to the top floor to confront this bad guy that he's dealing with. And this scene kind of lays out what happens when the ego is challenged. He's actually beginning to break out of his subjectivity to this Sam Gold, the alter ego. He's starting to begin to see it and deal with it. And the ego itself starts to flare up. And it almost sounds like he's possessed. Oh, yeah. Sounds like he's possessed. Here comes this clip.
Are you doing this to yourself, Jake? You die, Jake. You gotta get out. Get the
To be clear, what it's telling him is you're going to die. Now, he has claustrophobia. Jake does. And the alter ego is trying to cause him to avert from going to confront these people. Maybe the ego believes that it will be killed if they shoot Jake. Anyway, he has claustrophobia and it's trying to scare Jake.
Oh, Jake. After you! You gotta get
No.
Oh, moving in, Jake. Stop. What's moving in, Jake? It's tight, Jake. I'm scared. I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you. I'm onto you. Who takes care of the good times, Jake?
We're a team.
We're best pals, Jake. You want to get rid of me? You know life without me?
You know, no life without me.
Do you know life without me? No, because it doesn't exist. Do they talk about me, Jake? No, because I don't exist. Tell all your friends about me then, Jake. I protect you, and I control you. I say do, you obey. I say you're scared.
You're scared!
You're listening to the other side, aren't you, Jake? Listening to people that want to hurt you, Jake. New people.
No!
Not old friends like me.
People you shouldn't trust.
Not me. I've been your friend forever since the beginning. Get rid of them, Jake. Forever. They're the enemy.
Not me.
They're new. I'm old. I say they go. I say you do. Oh, weak without me. Weak. It's us against them, Jake.
It's us against them. You see, here it is. And there's a part of everybody that's exactly like that. There's a part of it, and it has existed with everybody for their entire life. Who takes care of you? And this is what it will say to you. If you could hear it, maybe you do. Maybe you hear it telling you to do the wrong thing. And then you give in to that and you say, oh, why did I do that again? Maybe it's telling you to run away from the truth, and you do, and you say, why didn't I take that moment, that opportunity? Why? This is a perfect kind of expose of how the ego operates. It tries to find your fear. It tries to intimidate you. The ego, the self that has existed before the self that's going to exist once it's, I don't know, eliminated. Who needs that dark influence? Now, you can't eliminate the ego, but you eliminate the dark side of it by observing it. See, this is what the Mr. Gold is telling Jake. You're listening to new friends. You see, the new friends are the angels. Those are the ones that are trying to wake him up to the truth that sets him free. Because he's already had a terrible, difficult life. Who hasn't had a difficult life? Come on. We've all had difficult lives. It doesn't matter. Things have happened to us. We've made mistakes. We've done stupid things. We've been angry. We've been hurt and hurt others. But there's a side of that which is okay with that. It kind of thrives off of it. And then it doesn't want you to be free, to be the better person. Right? There's a part of you that doesn't want you to be free, period. It just wants you to go on being. You know, it's like there was a show on TV. It was about the half-ton teen. This was years ago, maybe 10 years ago. The half-ton teen, he weighed 1,000 pounds. And his mom was his supplier. Like, you know how people have drug suppliers? He would bring him 5 hamburgers and 10 fries, and she liked the fact that he was in the bed there immobilized, unable to move. And, at some point in the show, uh, the doctors told her he's going to die. If you don't stop feeding him the way you're doing, he's going to die. So then she was forced to face reality that she had to stop. And what she said about it was so compelling. She says, well, I just thought it would go on like this, go on and on and on. Not forever, but she liked that relationship with her half-ton teen. Him immobilized and her just feeding him all day long, every day. There's a part of her that liked and believed that that would continue without interruption. But when she realized he was going to die, he got the surgery, and I don't know. But, I mean, that was a perfect moment of realization that it was going to come to an end one way or another. Everything eventually does come to an end, right? Life is transitory. It's just constantly new things are happening. Old things are going by the wayside. Although, unless, of course, you want to keep it just the way it is. Who wants to keep things just the way it is? Don't you want to grow? Don't you want to progress? Don't you want to live and learn and triumph?
It's us against them. I'm coming to get you. You want to get rid of me, Jake? You want to make an enemy out of me? You want to get rid of me, do ya? Do ya? You want to get rid of me? Me. Boom. Ah. Still here, Jake? How long have I looked after you? Don't win this one without me. Oh, no. You know why? I am you. You ain't me.
The greatest con that he ever pulled was making you believe that he is you.
You ain't me.
I am you!
You're not me.
Come on! Your best friend! I am you!
You don't control me. I control you.
So profound. And because it does want to convince you that it's you. And as long as you allow that to stay as a reality, it is you. Like I said, children create a reality. And to them, it's real. And if this is, I look at these people who are paraded around on social media and on television and in movies, and they really think that they are somebody. Really think that they are really that person. And that they have some kind of real control and power over what other people do. And they think it, and if other people allow it, it is true. But they really have a distorted vision of themselves, a twisted up, bizarre, altered reality that they live in. And I just think they can't see it. They just cannot see the truth. They can't. And that's why Jesus said, forgive them. Let them go. Loose them. Free them, for they know not what they do. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Yes, the reality is that there's a side of everyone who, and they don't even know it. This is why if you hate them, and they want you to without realizing it, they want you to be hurt by them. If you hate them, you become like them. You become like what you hate. And you become like what you love at the same time. The ego plays both sides of that equation. And, there's a simmering that goes on when people know how to push your buttons and stick you in the eye with their finger and, pop your ears with their words. They know what they're doing, or they don't know what they're doing. Some people do. Some people know exactly what they're doing. Other people, 96% of people don't know what they're doing, because they themselves are being controlled because they think that is it, that it is them, that it is them. They think it. They don't even know. They don't even step back a moment to know that they don't have to cooperate with it. And so you should see this movie, Revolver. I think it's 2005 it was made. Brilliant. It's brilliant. The dialogue there is just so good between the angelic side and the dark side. And I think there's an angelic side, and my friend Al wrote me that he discovered his angel. I think you have to realize that you're not alone, that everybody's got an angel and an ego. Maybe more than one angel. But, an ego. An ego that they think is them. So I've got one more clip here. Here it comes.
The ego is the worst confidence trickster we could ever imagine, because you don't see it.
And the single biggest con is, I am you.
The problem is that the ego hides in the last place that you'd ever look, within itself.
It disguises its thoughts as your thoughts, its feelings as your feelings. You think it's you.
People's need to protect their own egos knows no bounds. They will lie, cheat, steal, kill, do whatever it takes to maintain what we call ego boundaries.
People have no clue that they're in prison. They don't know that there is an ego. They don't know the distinction.
At first it's difficult for the mind to accept that there's something beyond itself, that there's something of greater value and greater capacity for discerning truth than itself.
In religion, the ego manifests as the devil. And of course, no one realizes how smart the ego is, because it created the devil so you could blame someone else.
Your greatest enemy is your own inner perception, is your own ignorance, is your own ego.
Your greatest enemy is your own ego. Yes, it is. It is. But actually, it's a squatter. It doesn't really have any right to maintain its grip in your world. Like Rosie O'Donnell and her relationship with Trump. She's given Trump free rent in her head. He dominates her. She is responsible for that, not Trump. See, so Trump, you could blame Trump. Oh, I hate Trump. But no, if you think about it objectively, he's just who he is. He's doing what he does. And she is giving him power over her. She does. And all these people who hate Trump, they give him that power. And to them, he is the devil. That's why this crazy man who came out recently and said he wanted to do away with Trump, this guy who's running for Attorney General of some state. Crazy. What did he do? What did anybody do? And then the question is, what did Jesus do to be murdered by the Pharisees and by the Romans? What did he do? Oh, he healed people on the Sabbath? Oh, he forgave people in the name of God? He never said he was God. He said, I and the Father are one. Well, that's true of a police force and a policeman. They work in unison. Come on, folks. Take a look at that ego. See it for what it is. It's not real unless you make it real. You're the one that's giving it the power. You're giving that ego power. And Christ, Jesus is the name above all names. Whenever you have that struggle going on in you, just use that name. Use it sincerely. Use the authority of the name of Jesus to tell that part of you to go away and never come back. That's all you have to do. You tell it to go away and never come back. But of course, it'll come back. There's nowhere to go. Remember, Jesus threw demons into a herd of swine. So they have to go somewhere. Okay, so into a herd of swine. Or into the person next door who's already in the dark side. Who knows? I don't know. But it's not there unless you allow it. If you allow it to be there, you have to own it and then disown it. Say, okay, I've let it be here my whole life. I didn't know it was there. And now I want it gone. In the name of Jesus, go away and never come back. By the authority of Jesus Christ, I cast you out. By the blood of Jesus, I cover my life and free from the dark side. That's it. And believe it and live it. Believe it and live it. There you go. FHU.com is where you find out about the Be Still and Know exercise. PO Box 1000, Grants Pass, Oregon 97528. That's it. See you next time.